Taehyung froze. Was he hallucinating? But then the little girl opened her eyes. Big, glassy, frightened. She didn't cry, didn't speak, just looked at him like she was used to strangers walking past. He crouched down slowly. Tae, where's your mom? No answer. Her lips trembled. She clutched something in her hand. A small, torn photograph, burnt at the edges. Taehyung's breath caught. The photo was of a woman holding this same little girl. The back read, Aram, my heart, my light. Pinned inside the blanket was a note. She's not safe with me. Whoever finds her, please don't let her disappear like I did. Her lips trembled. She reached out, tiny fingers brushing against his bruised knuckles. And that was it. No crying, no pleading, just trust. He looked at this fragile, forgotten soul, no older than 3, and felt something snap inside. Because once he had sat in that same rain, waiting, hoping someone would stop. No one did until now. He picked her up gently as if she might shatter in his arms. Her small head tucked beneath his chin, and for the first time in years, Taehyung felt something real. Not the sting of betrayal, not the weight of secrets, but warmth, a fragile flicker of purpose he hadn't felt since his mother died. He carried her through the storm, not knowing where he was going, only that he couldn't leave her behind. That night, he didn't go home. He took her to a rundown motel room he sometimes crashed at, cleaned the blood off his knuckles in the sink, then wiped her cheeks with a warm towel. She let him, quiet and still, like she'd been taught to take up no space at all. He gave her the only clean shirt he had, far too big, and let her sleep on the bed while he sat on the floor, staring at the photograph. Aryam, he whispered, reading the name again. Something about it broke him. Maybe it was because she reminded him of himself, of a past he tried to forget. Or maybe it was because no one had ever held on to him the way she had. Not even knowing his name, but the moment she reached out, he knew. He wasn't leaving her behind. Present now, standing outside the art room with Yin, cigarette forgotten in his hand, Taehyung stared at the concrete wall beside her, like if he looked her in the eyes, everything would fall apart. You asked who she is, he said after a moment, voice low. In nodded. You told her you weren't her appa. I'm not, he whispered. But she calls you that. He exhaled hard. Rain still clung to his hair, dripping from the edge of his hoodie. Because I became one, and stared at him, confused breath caught. What do you mean? He leaned back against the wall, fingers twitching, jaw clenched. I found her 2 years ago, alone in the rain, same way I used to be. There was silence, then he added, I don't know who her real parents are. I never found them, but I know what it feels like to be forgotten. And I wasn't going to let it happen to her. In's chest tightened. Her anger dissolved into something else, something deeper, sadder. She's not your blood. No, but she's my choice. He looked up then, eyes finally meeting hers. And what she saw wasn't the cocky bad boy from the back row of class. It was a boy who had been hurt too young, a man trying to be something no one had ever been for him. She's all I've got, and I'll burn the world down before I let it take her too. In swallowed hard, her throat ached. Why didn't you just tell people? Taehyung laughed bitterly. You think anyone would believe me? Some college guy with a criminal record, fighting in alleys, suddenly playing house with a kid? I'd lose her before I even got to explain. There was another pause. In bit her lip. I won't tell anyone, but you're doing your best. I see that. For the first time he looked at her, not guarded, not defensive, but with a quiet kind of gratitude. Thanks, he said, then more softly. She likes you, you know. Smiles brave. She's stronger than me. In looked at him for a long second. Really looked. Past the bruised knuckles, the guarded eyes, the rough edges he used like armor. And then softly she asked, Can I see her? I mean, if that's okay, I'd like to spend time with her. Taehyung blinked. The cigarette in his hand burned down to ash. He wasn't expecting that. Not from her. Not now. You want to? Come over, only if you're okay with it. I think she might need more than just you. And maybe you might too. A long pause. Taehyung looked away, biting the inside of his cheek like he was wrestling with something unspoken. He finally exhaled through his nose. Tae, she talks about you sometimes. Says you smell like vanilla and coffee. He gave a crooked smile. Thinks you're a princess. Laughed, a little caught off guard. In a princess? In her world, kindness is rare. That makes you royalty. Silence lingered again, warmer this time, not awkward, just quietly full. Then, as if making a decision out loud, he said, "We go to the pier on Sundays, just to breathe. She loves the seagulls. You can come, if you want." In's chest swelled. Relief? Gratitude? Something she couldn't quite name. "I'd like that," she whispered. "All right, Sunday." He stood to leave, tugging his hoodie over his head again, that familiar armor slipping back into place. But before he stepped out, he paused. "She's all I've got, but if you hurt her, even a little, I won't. You don't have to worry about that." He looked back one last time, something unspoken in his gaze. Good, because she could use someone else to believe in. Then he was gone, and In stood in the hallway, heart pounding, not from fear, but from the quiet weight of being trusted. The breeze carried the salty scent of the sea as In stood at the edge of the pier, watching the waves curl beneath the wooden planks. Seagulls cried overhead. She hugged her coat tighter, eyes scanning the path behind her. Yin, to herself softly, maybe they're not coming? But then she saw them. A small figure skipping toward her, arms swinging, and beside her, Taehyung, hands deep in his hoodie pockets, hood up, like always. Nuna? Nin. Of course I did, sweet girl. I said I'd meet you here, didn't I? Appa bought me strawberry milk for the walk, but I saved you some. Proudly hands her a slightly warm box. That's very generous of you. Thank you. Taehyung arrived a few steps later, quiet, unreadable as ever. She made me stop at 3 stores looking for that exact brand. Glancing up at him, she's got good taste. Want to go look at the seagulls? Let's chase them. You're gonna scare them off again, but that's the fun part. She ran to the railing, little feet clomping on the wooden boards. Taehyung and Yin followed slowly, walking side by side. The day went well. It's evening. When fell asleep in the backseat of Taehyung's old car, curled up with her teddy, Yin helped buckle her in. Taehyung closed the door gently, leaning back against the car, arms crossed. "You're good with her. She's easy to love." He nodded. That's the scary part. Silence stretched. The sea whispered behind them. From inside the car, stirred. A soft whimper. "Appa? Up." Like a spell breaking, Taehyung turned instantly, opening the back door to check on her. She mumbled in her sleep, still dreaming. He brushed a strand of hair from her forehead and adjusted her seatbelt. In watched the way his fingers moved, tender and steady, and something inside her melted. When he closed the door again, she was still there, waiting. "I should get her home," he said, his voice calmer now, quieter, and nodded, hugging her arms to her chest. "Okay." But just as she turned to walk away, his voice stopped her. "Next Sunday?" She looked back. "I'll bring her to the pier again, if you're free." In smiled, small but real. "I'll be there." Taehyung nodded once, and as she walked away, he leaned against the car again, watching her fade into the evening light with something soft in his eyes. He didn't know what this was, this fragile, flickering warmth that tugged at his chest when she smiled, or the calm that settled over him when she was near. Or maybe he did. He loved her. Not just now. Not just because she was kind to Taehyung. Not just because she saw through his rough edges. No, Taehyung had loved her since the day she first walked into that campus courtyard. Head high, eyes full of curiosity, wearing that oversized hoodie, slipping into a seat by the window like she didn't want to be noticed. But he noticed. He remembered everything. The way she always doodled flowers in the corners of her notes. The way her brows pinched when she was thinking. She had no idea who he was back then, and he had every intention of keeping it that way. Because who would love a guy like him? The boy who skipped classes, who came to school with split knuckles and tired eyes, the one everyone whispered about. He's trouble. Fights, suspended twice, probably into something illegal. No one looked twice at him with softness, except her. She was kind. He was chaos. And in his head, those two things didn't belong together, so he stayed quiet. Loved her from a distance, carved her name into the margins of his sketchbook like a secret no one was allowed to know. And then came into his life, and the world shifted. A few weeks later, on a soft Saturday evening, In stood nervously outside Taehyung's small apartment. The hallway smelled faintly of old paint and someone's burned toast down the hall. She smiled when she saw the little sticky note on the door. Knock 3 times. RM. God, she thought, even her notes are adorable. She knocked 3 times, just like instructed. The door flew open almost instantly. RM, squealing, already in fluffy socks and a strawberry print apron 3 sizes too big. Ah! Did you grow taller since last Sunday? Maybe. She grabbed her hand and pulled her inside. The apartment was small, warm, and full of life. Worn books on shelves, crayons scattered across the table, a painting half finished in the corner, a vase with 1 daisy and a fork stuck in it. Somehow, it felt like home. And in the kitchen, barefoot and stirring a pot, stood Taehyung. Gray t-shirt, hair tousled, eyes already flickering toward her like she was sunlight itself. Hey. Taehyung gave a sheepish half smile, brushing a hand through his messy hair. Dinner's almost ready. Hope you're okay with ramyeon and grilled cheese. It's all our top chef wanted to make. Yin. Top chef? RM, announcing proudly, puffing her chest as she dragged In to the kitchen table. That's me. Appa just stirs things. I'm the real cook. Yin giggled, letting herself be tugged to a chair. Well then, Chef RM, I'm honored to be your guest. Taehyung glanced sideways at Yin as he plated the food. Something about the way she leaned close to RM, listening intently, laughing without reservation. That warmth again, that pull. Dinner passed with laughter and melted cheese and RM telling them about a seagull she named Captain Wingy. After dessert, store-bought strawberry milk and cookies, RM disappeared into her room to draw, leaving the 2 of them in the quiet hum of the kitchen. Taehyung rinsed the dishes while Yin dried. It felt comfortable. Tae, not looking at her this time, you're good with her. Yin glanced up. Yin, you've said that before. He shrugged, still washing. Still true. You're good with her too. Better than you think. A pause, then a soft, tired smile. Thanks. Suddenly, RM's voice echoed from her room. Nuna, come here. I need to show you something, laughed, setting the dish towel aside. Coming. She walked down the short hallway and stepped into the tiny bedroom, walls covered in doodles and paper butterflies. RM was sitting cross-legged on the bed, crayons scattered around her. RM beaming, holding up a folded piece of paper. I made something. Yin unfolded it. It was a drawing, a wobbly stick figure of RM, holding hands with a taller girl labeled Nuna. And beside them, a man with messy hair and big eyes. Above their heads, my family. Yin's breath caught. Her fingers trembled just slightly as she traced the clumsy crayon lines. Yin, who is this Nuna? Whom's small voice carried on, unaware of the storm she just stirred. RM, thoughtfully, reaching for another crayon. I didn't see her yet, but Appa loves her. Her name, Yin? I guess. Yin froze. Her lips parted, but no words came. RM, how did you know her name? Sometimes, when he thinks I'm asleep, he says stuff. That time, I heard him. What stuff did he say? Like, if I was better, maybe she'd stay. I don't know why he says he's not a good person. He is. He makes me noodles with smiley faces. And he sings when he thinks I'm sad, even if he sings bad. RM reached forward and placed a small hand over Yin's. RM whispering with a seriousness far beyond her years. I think he's just scared, but I hope this Yin Nuna is nice. I hope she sees him, like really sees him. Because she hesitated, then looked down at the paper drawing again. RM, my Appa deserves love too. A tear slipped down Yin's cheek before she could stop it. She wiped it away quickly, trying to smile. RM looked up at her, concerned. Nuna, are you crying? Yin, murmuring, pulling her into a hug. No, sweetheart, I think you're very smart and very kind. Just like your Appa. RM beamed, snuggling into the hug. They stayed like that a moment longer. RM's little arms wrapped tight around her neck, her innocent heart unknowingly stitching pieces of Yin's back together. Slowly, the girl's breath evened out, her tiny frame growing heavy with sleep, curled trustingly in Yin's embrace. Finally, Yin turned, stepping softly into the hallway, where Taehyung stood leaning against the wall, arms crossed loosely, his gaze unreadable. She walked toward him, quiet but certain, and stopped just a few inches away. Yin, barely above a whisper. She really loves you. Behind her, Taehyung nodded slowly. She's everything. In turned to face him fully, her eyes deep and sincere. You didn't have to raise her, but you did. He dropped his gaze for a moment, the weight of her words sinking in. Then he looked back at her, eyes softer now, exposed in a way few had ever seen. I didn't save her yet. She saved me. The silence that followed wasn't heavy, it was full. Taehyung gave a quiet breath of laughter, but there was no humor in it, only gratitude. I was terrified, still am. I didn't know what I was doing. I still don't, but every morning she looks at me like I'm the whole world. And somehow, that's enough to keep going. Taehyung's jaw clenched. He looked away, but not fast enough to hide the way his eyes burned. I'm scared. Steady, even as her heart trembled. I know. They stood there a moment longer, still uncertain, but no longer avoiding each other. Then Taehyung cleared his throat, rubbing the back of his neck. I made some hot chocolate. You want some? And gave a small nod, the corner of her mouth tugging up faintly. Yin. Yeah, I'd like that. They walked quietly to the kitchen. Taehyung poured the warm liquid into mismatched mugs, the kind with tiny cracks in the glaze, and cartoon characters faded from too many washes. It felt like everything about them, imperfect, but still standing. He slid a mug toward her. She took it with both hands, letting the warmth seep into her fingers. A quiet passed between them again, the kind that meant something was coming. Ian looked down at the swirling cocoa for a second, then slowly said, I heard something from Aryam. Taehyung's brows pulled together, frown forming. What? Hesitated, heart thudding in her chest. She said you like someone. Taehyung froze. The world felt too quiet. His heart pounded, loud in his ears. Softly as locking with his, is it true? What she said, do you like me? Then looked at her. There was a time he would have lied, deflected, smiled and said something stupid to change the subject. But not now, not when she was standing there asking for the truth. He sighed, long and quiet, and nodded. Yeah, I do. She set the mug down gently, the soft clink on the countertop the only sound. Taehyung, why didn't you ever tell me? His laugh came out broken, hollow. Because what was I supposed to say? Hey, I think about you every night and hate myself for not being enough for you. That's not exactly the kind of confession that wins hearts. In's expression softened with something like ache and affection all at once. You never had to be perfect, Taehyung. You just had to be honest. His eyes burned again. You make it sound so easy. It's not easy, but it's real. He looked at her like she was something impossible, something he never thought he deserved to touch. In, she stepped forward slowly and raised her hand to his cheek, brushing her fingertips gently across his skin. You want to know something? I love you too. But I was scared, she admitted. You always had this darkness around you, like you were carrying something heavy no one else could touch. You walked like you didn't want anyone to come close, like you were protecting something, or yourself. Taehyung didn't speak. He couldn't. His throat had closed around whatever words might have escaped. In. And that scared me. Not because I thought you were dangerous, but because I saw how hard you were trying to hold yourself together. I thought if I got too close, I might break you, or worse, fall apart with you. She let out a soft, almost embarrassed laugh. In, but then I saw the real you. I saw you with Aryam. The way you carry her in your arms when she's tired, how you check if she's eaten, or how you listen, even when she rambles about butterflies and stars. I saw the real you, Taehyung, the quiet one, the kind one, the one who protects and stays, even when he's falling apart inside. She looked at him now with a softness he hadn't felt in years. And I felt, Taehyung, I fell hard, for your quiet strength, for the way you carry the weight of the world and still find it in you to give love. I didn't just fall for your smiles or your silence. I fell for everything, even the parts you tried to hide. Taehyung blinked rapidly, jaw clenched like he was trying not to cry. He didn't say a word, just wrapped his arms around her and buried his face in her shoulder. In ran her fingers through his hair slowly. They stood there in the quiet hum of the kitchen. Two broken people slowly stitching each other whole. After a while, they settled onto the couch, the soft blanket tucked around them, warm mugs still resting on the table. Outside, the rain had quieted, but inside, something new was blooming in the silence between them. Taehyung glanced at her, heart racing like he'd never felt so exposed. emotions swimming beneath the surface. In, she turned to him, curious. He hesitated, eyes dropping to where their hands now rested side by side. If I asked you something, would you say yes? Her brows drew together slightly. Depends. On the question, he gave a small, nervous breath of a laugh. What if I asked you to stay? Not just for Aryam, but for me. Yin blinked, her expression softening. But before she could speak, Taehyung leaned closer, voice quiet, uncertain. What if I asked you to be mine? For a moment, her lips parted as if to respond. Then, without a single word, she leaned forward and kissed him. Soft, sure, full of all the things she'd never been able to say out loud. When she finally pulled back, her voice was warm and steady. Yin, is that answer enough for your question? Taehyung's eyes closed, a shaky smile pulling at his lips. Tae, more than enough. Then, he cupped her face with both hands, trembling just slightly, as if afraid she'd disappear if he blinked. And he kissed her. Not with urgency, not with desperation. Like this moment was everything he never thought he could have, but always longed for. And she kissed him back. Fully, finally. Two people who had been running from the 8 of love, only to find it right here, in each other's arms. When they parted, foreheads pressed together, breaths tangled, and hearts loud in the silence, Taehyung let out a broken laugh. I waited so long to feel like this. Like I wasn't too much, or too little, just enough. Yin smiled softly, tracing his jaw with her fingers. You were always enough, Taehyung. I just needed you to see it too. And in the quiet that followed, as the world faded away and the warmth of each other remained, he held her, and she didn't let go.